buy hamburger rolls? Could we have it on English muffins?
Well, that's fine.
Huh?
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is the Community Preservation Committee. It's January 8th, 2025. It is exactly 5 o'clock. This meeting will be video recorded and broadcast over local access channel 8 and through the town website at www.eastham-ma.gov. And we're going to start with our grant presentations. And I'll start with I'm going to start with the forward housing because the three of you are here and if you could proceed to give your presentation. You're welcome to sit either at the desk with Stacy or one of these two chairs here. Hi, Jay. How are you? You're Mark. You have me fooled, but I know who you are. I think the forward people might want to sit there first, so if you don't mind.
Microphones. Hello. I'm Kathy Oman, President and Founder of Forward, and I'm here tonight with our Executive Director, David Kaplan, and our Board Vice President, Bob Samolak. Thank you for inviting us to come in to talk about our request for funds from the Eastham CPC. Forward is very close to completing our fundraising on a phase 2 development, which is 8 one-bedroom apartments for people with autism and or related disabilities. The phase 2 build is on Town of Dennis donated land at 131 Holcomb Rock Road in South Dennis. Currently on the property is 2 group homes, each with 4 bedrooms, each with 4 residents. One is one home, it has 4 women and one has 4 men. We incorporated as a 501c3 in 2014, and we opened the doors to Forward in the early fall of 2020 in the midst of the pandemic. It was built by Cape Associates here in Eastham. They are builders for phase 2 as well. They miraculously built the 2 group homes on budget and on time, again, in the midst of the pandemic, before vaccines. It was, as we all recall, a perilous time, and they did a fantastic job, and that is why we've invited them back to build phase 2. The residents for phase 1 and phase 2 are selected by the Department of Developmental Services through the Cape and Islands area office. So all of the residents will be Cape Cod residents. This is a regional project. And currently the people who live in the 2 group homes come from, and I have to use my fingers for this, Barnstable, Dennis, Yarmouth, Sandwich, Wellfleet.
I think there are 3 from Barnstable.
3 from Barnstable, yeah. One from Orleans. So they represent 6 towns on Cape Cod. We have been meeting with the department regularly. Before we launched our phase 2 project, we did a study with people from DDS and schools, special ed departments, parents, people in agencies around Cape Cod to determine what the next best need is for this kind of disability housing. The department, without question, reports that higher functioning people with autism, people who would, with supports, be able to live in an apartment, are the fastest growing population on Cape Cod. I believe that's probably true for the rest of the Commonwealth as well. And David and I met with them this fall, and they reiterated that they are ready to to fill these spots as soon as we build them. And what we have found, as we found in phase one, is any delays in building raise the cost, raise the price of the build. And that is one of the reasons that we are here. So far, we have received funding for phase two. We're receiving funding from 8 Cape Cod towns. We have completed the process, gone all the way through the town meeting process, and have been awarded funds from 8 towns. Recently, Falmouth, the Falmouth CPC approved us for a $100,000 grant. We have also met with the towns of Harwich and Wellfleet. And we're meeting here with you tonight. Next week, we'll go to Truro, and David recently completed an application to Provincetown, which means that we are receiving funds from or have applied to all 15 towns on Cape Cod. And I don't think there's another group on the Cape that has done that. And we have the most probably distinct catchment area. But I'm sure that's probably not true in other parts of the state as well. So we're proud of our work, our efforts in this respect, and of all the CPCs that we've been to. We've had a really incredible experience. We're also very close to closing on our financing. We're looking to finalize $2 million in funding from the state. We recently received, I always get the number a little bit wrong, David, 363,000, or is it 40?
326,000.
It changes a little every time. From the county, we've received county ARPA money in that amount.
The ARPA money?
Most recently, we
The last of it.
the last of it at the end of,
The last.
went in
you.
December and received that grant. And we do private funding. We have a very successful trivia night. We're planning another one for this year. Last year, we cleared $50,000 in our trivia night, which was twice what we've done in the past. It was really an amazing night. And our entire disability community came together to support us on that. We do other smaller private fundraising whenever we can. And all of this together, especially so we've raised so far about $2 million in CPC money for phase two. We raised $1 million in CPC money for phase one. That it wasn't as expensive. This is several years down the line, and as you know, building is more expensive than it used to be. So we've come here tonight to ask you to consider a grant from Eastham, and you will join hopefully all of the other towns on Cape Cod. We won't know about Provincetown for a while, and we will, we will go through the town meeting process with definitely with Falmouth, and hopefully with the remaining towns as well. Is there, I mean, are there other questions, or is there something you want to add, David?
Yeah, I think that covers all the most important points. I mean, I think I would just stress the regional aspect of it, as Kathy.
Excuse me, sir, I'm just going to ask you to make
Oh.
sure they use the microphone
Oh,
because we
sorry.
do have several people
Yeah,
Yeah, you can pull
on
it.
Zoom. Just pull it. Thank you,
sorry.
sir.
I would just, I think, emphasize the regional nature, both in terms of where people have come from so far, from Sandwich to Wellfleet, living in these homes. The really deep need for the homes, expressed by the statistics that we've gathered, public statistics, what the Department of Developmental Services is telling us, and the importance that the support is coming from across the Cape. So.
Mhm.
Is there supported staff 24 hours on a facility, or is it just independent living?
That's a good question. So the 2 group homes that are currently there, they are 24/7 supports. These apartments will not be staffed. However, the individuals will have access to support services, which they may pool together or use separately, independently. And we know that each of these residents will be Department of Developmental Services clients, and they will have access to money for support services. And they will have a case manager to coordinate that, but they will not have staff attached to this to this project, but we will have, we will hire someone. Current Capabilities runs our 2 group homes, and we look to them first, and if that doesn't work out, we'll hire someone to manage the property.
Do you have trouble finding staff
I-
because of the housing situation, just for anybody in general on the Cape?
Absolutely. So we're the builders and we have subleased the 2 group homes to Capabilities, but we meet with them regularly and we know about the staff shortages. The staff who work in the homes, some of them come from Wareham and Carver. I think people who live on the Cape don't realize
Oh, yeah,
that the staff comes over the bridge
right.
and, it's every day.
Mhm.
Because of the inaffordability of housing, when our board has started to save a little bit of time at each of our board meetings to talk about what's next for us, what is our phase 3 goals or ideas. And we always, I would say, come back around to talking about how could we build staff housing? And currently what we're finding through the state is there aren't a lot of models for that. There isn't a lot of public funding for
public.
that. And I think there will be in the future. And we're trying to carve the way with that too, recognizing that that we have to have, in all industries, obviously down here, but in this one, particularly, workers at Capabilities, I think make $19 or $20 an hour. If it's, I know there's been a push to get their hourly wage up to $20, and I think if we all go grocery shopping, which we know that
We all like
that-
to eat, I think.
well, that's not a livable wage here on Cape Cod, so it's a huge concern.
Just a couple of things in terms of what's been said. In the proposal for the individual apartments, one of the reasons is staffing is driving some of that decision. They know that they can staff this with less people.
But
per se.
it's being built with the understanding that the amount of staffing you need will be less than if you were to build it in another.
Than the 24-hour staffing that the
Right.
current group homes require. And the other thing that we learned was they learned a lot during COVID and using technology to be able, particularly to reach kind of the folks here who need a bit less of that constant supervision. So it's easier to do a check-in. It doesn't have to always be.
Doesn't have to be somebody,
As long as there's contact, the person's doing their thing, they're safe, that kind of thing. So they're in charge of that. Once they take over, they'll provide the services, but they've learned to use the technology to help support the people a little bit better. So it doesn't eliminate all the contact, but it helps out with that.
one-on-one doesn't need to be 24 hours.
Right.
Well, there is always a lifeline. I think when residents first come in, they're given an iPad by the Department of Developmental Services. And at the end, at the other side of that iPad is always somebody. They may be in Ohio or someone else, but this is how they're using the technology now. That
Interesting.
if someone needs help, there's someone they can contact. And then more locally, Latham School is part of the technology project for everybody.
Do you have an idea of what the need is versus what is available?
That's one of my questions too, Eileen.
Yours and perhaps any other entity that might be out there?
I don't know, in terms of numbers, I don't believe that we do what is the absolute need on Cape Cod. What we know is that nationally, 81% of people with autism live at home with aging parents with little or no plan for their future because of the lack of resources, whether that be group homes or apartments, or we are also looking at other models too. There's lots of research going on, but there's a huge gap in availability, especially here on Cape Cod.
Thank you.
Will one of the houses be for women and one for men, like the phase 1?
There'll be 8 individual apartments. So I don't know. It depends on who the department will
The
assess and evaluate and decide who. It'll be based on the greatest need.
when you finished phase 1, did you have some idea of how many people still needed or would have been met the requirements for your project
Yeah,
as
no,
compared to how many spaces you had?
Yeah, these two homes were filled immediately, and there's no waiting lists in Massachusetts. Due to a class action suit about 25, 30 years ago now, they categorize people by, if you're category 1, you're eligible.
Mhm.
So people can become eligible, but that doesn't mean that there's resources available for group homes. I know as a parent of 2 young men with autism that there are very few resources
Mm.
for people. Even day programs or other, even if you have your adult child at home, there's not, especially since the pandemic, there's not always, resources for daily living that would, help people and help families in these situations. So no, we don't know the numbers. We know that all kinds of human service resources for this population are very hard to come by.
I'm asking folks on the Zoom up there if any of them have any, excuse me, particular questions. Dan?
Yeah, just for clarification, are all of your applications for the 15 towns equal in amount at 100,000?
No, and I believe we've asked you for 50,000. Falmouth, we asked them for 100,000 and that's what they granted us. No, the town of Dennis, boy, altogether has
750.
given us 750,000.
Phase 2, 500,000.
Right, 500,000 for phase 1, 750 for phase 2. Barnstable has given us a lot of money, like 375.
375.
Yeah, for phase 2, and we went to Barnstable. Barnstable has a town council, so they don't have town meeting.
Mm.
So the CPC makes their recommendation and then it gets voted by the town council. We went every month for a year to Barnstable for phase 1. And they unanimously granted us,
After a year.
yeah, it took a year. It's a long story.
A year.
Obviously. So no, we've made applications based on roughly on town size, but also, for example, in the case of Wellfleet, which is probably similar on the Outer Cape here, a smaller town like Eastham, they have a resident in one of our buildings, so we asked them for 75,000 because of that.
Okay, thank you.
So a vacancy cannot be expected to happen anytime soon.
Correct. In Massachusetts, I imagine this is the same throughout the country. Mostly vacancies occur when someone dies. Group homes are forever homes for the most part for people. And there, some people, it's just not a good fit for whatever reason. There may be some movement, but mostly that's how people, that's how spots become available. This could be, we don't know, this could be different. These are apartments. We know that the families of people who will move into these apartments have been working with and advocating and asking for this
Long time.
residence for a long time. So yes, there's not a lot. Once the vacancies are filled, there isn't a lot of movement. They're pretty much forever homes.
I have another question, and I'm looking at your original booklet here that you kindly sent to us. It says on page, I'm on page 13. Eastham CPA funds will only, will only be used for costs included in the total improvements line item. What exactly does that mean?
I can take that one. It means for the actual construction, not any pre-development expenses, reserves. It'll be the bricks and mortar part of the process.
And so when would you be coming to the Eastham in this case for those monies?
Well, I just, for your information, I listened to one of your 2 prior meetings to this one.
Yeah.
I heard some of the discussion about when the money
Can you
should
pay
be.
someone?
That's right.
And I'll be agnostic on answering that, but I mean, our answer is always the sooner the better. Mostly because it then saves us having to pay on a loan from
Interest.
a bank, interest on a loan from the bank. It'll be you know, we'll probably take them to some degree in order of where we've received them and the towns that we know can start contributing early. And the state has a holdback of 10% till the end. There are ways that they're willing to do more, but so that's how we look at it. I don't think we'd be asking for year funding until very late in the process. If we had a vote, we'd say earlier than certificate of occupancy, but somewhere towards the end. And we'll, you know, whatever stipulation you put on it. we'll
Yeah, we have to discuss the conditions that-
Right.
Right.
with all of our monies.
Yep,
Yeah.
sure.
And can I just add that prior concerns are if it's an unknown, whole new company, I think with the phase one having succeeded so well, it's at least I feel more comfortable with, you know, when it's needed earlier, but that's still, it can't be before town meeting. But it can be
Town meeting
like
won't
the
be
day
till May.
after town meeting.
We-
It could,
I
yeah,
understand.
so.
Yeah.
We provide.
You want to introduce yourself,
I'm
Jay?
Jay Camp, and
Okay.
I'm the alternative member of the Historic Commission. Because our candidate is camping in the Everglades. No access to TV.
Yeah, Mark.
Anyway, we have already donated once already for a project that's a group home in Orleans.
More than once.
And we were very, very supportive of that particular movement, because as you said, a lot of people do not understand the need for this. And even the group home in Orleans, you mentioned staff, could expand, but they can't because they can't get people
To help.
But
Yeah.
your particular program seems to be one where the individuals are capable of taking care of themselves for the most part. And that makes it easier for you to run these particular organizations, but I'm just speaking as someone who has read all of the materials. I did this this afternoon because this was an emergency that
Oh, because of Mark?
from Mark.
Mhm.
And I thought you did a wonderful job in putting this material together. The business parts of it and the explanations, and I was impressed that you went to the ability of getting surveys of people who are in this particular area from the schools. And I think that's important to understand. When you read, we have a number of people, according to the period, to the materials given to us, that could qualify. I mean, we have more than enough people to fill the whole place, and that's true of all the towns.
I know, it's,
Yeah.
It's really a very bad situation, and you may feel that we have issues here on the Cape, but I can assure you that all areas of Massachusetts are faced with this problem. And I'm just saying that I think you did a good job in creating this material. It's very easy to understand. And I think that whatever the committee does, we still have to, once we make a decision, if it's a positive decision, then of course we have to wait for the town.
Yeah.
And then the monies don't become available until later in the year to begin with. Because we're dealing with the August 1st, I believe, in that respect.
Thank you. David deserves all the credit for putting together these.
all the
amazing-
documentation.
applications.
Does a great job.
Mhm.
It's a labor of love.
Certainly
Well,
appears.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Does anybody have any other questions? Do I have a motion to approve the request of $50,000 by the Forward? Are you calling yourself just the Forward or Forward?
It's an acronym.
the forward project.
I make a motion
moved.
to $50,000 for the project.
Seconded.
Eileen? Is there any discussion? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8-0.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for
We
coming.
know that you have many big decisions to make. We are in awe of all of the CPCs and we know you thoroughly vet all of these projects and we appreciate your support.
Well, thank you for all your work. And I'm sure there are lots of people that appreciate it. Not just us, but the folks that are living in the homes.
Right. Yes,
Mm.
and their families.
Yes, yeah, and their families, yes. Yeah,
Thank you.
Good luck going
Thanks.
forward.
yes,
Thank
good
you very
luck.
much.
Yeah.
See you at the groundbreaking.
Yes, yes. You're probably looking forward to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then opening day.
Yes.
Harry, may I sit at the table or not?
Yeah, sure. I just didn't want you to take a spot that
No, no,
they
microphone.
needed.
Process.
Yeah. Okay,
Does the next presentation is for my chair as well?
no, it's just Amanda. Hello, how are you, Amanda?
How are you?
Just fine, thank you.
It's 2025. Here we are again. Feels like just yesterday I was here doing this last year. Thank you so much for a couple of minutes. I will just briefly take you through the application and the program, and then I'm happy to take any questions. I'm Amanda Bebrin. I'm the Director of Housing Advocacy at the Community Development Partnership, or CDP. The CDP is the Lower and Outer Capes nonprofit that supports the region in having a thriving year-round population that can afford to live, work, and thrive here. We do that through small business technical assistance for economic development. We own and or manage 64 units of affordable housing across the region, and then we also do a fair bit of housing advocacy. So I'm in charge of our housing advocacy program and specifically the Lower Cape Housing Institute. This is a program that provides education, resources, and support to municipal officials and staff across the region. The inception of the program was in 2017 and was sort of born out of a recognition that there's sometimes a gap between, the passion and commitment of elected and appointed officials and some of the really specialized knowledge that especially comes with the creation and sustaining of affordable housing. We know that towns are often, working well beyond their capacity to keep the lights on and keep everything moving forward. And so the organization saw an opportunity to provide some education to help fill that gap, so that board and committee members would understand what their role was in affordable housing and working toward each town's housing goals, and then also understanding sort of how all the different pieces and processes of affordable housing work together to get the best outcomes for each town that are aligned with each town's housing goals. It's been really incredible watching each of the 8 Lower and Outer Cape towns, Eastham included, really put a lot of thought and intention into who are the people who need housing, who are the people we need to keep in our communities, and then what are the steps and goals that we want to pursue in order to create that housing. So the Housing Institute runs sort of with the school year. So we are into the 2024-2025 curriculum. There are a couple of prongs to the program. One is that we do workshops. We do 5 workshops throughout the year. This used to be like a 6-week sit-down certificate course that you'd go and sit in the room, sit at the table for 6 weeks, and then you'd get your little certificate at the end. Through the pandemic, that has evolved to being an online. We do all of our courses via Zoom. For serving the Lower and Outer Cape, it is very challenging to find a physical place that isn't a huge, long commute for either the people in Provincetown or the people in Harwich. It's nice for the people in Eastham. You're right in the middle. So we found that Zoom is a great way to promote accessibility and really maximize participation, which is really what we want. So we offer workshops throughout the year. Each year I develop the curriculum. We start with Housing 101 to sort of capture new board and committee members, interested residents, maybe future town leaders. And then the other 4 are a variety of more advanced topics, and those vary year to year. So this is really sort of a changing curriculum that evolves as town housing needs evolves and trends emerge. So this year, actually, on this coming Tuesday, I'll plug while I'm here, we're doing a workshop called Wastewater and Housing Our Friends. And so we have Mark Nelson from Horsley Witten coming to talk about some of the science and some of the sort of why wastewater and water quality are concerns for our area, and then what are some of the treatment options that are available to us. And then we have Corey Fellows from the Preservation of Affordable Housing, who's going to come talk about sort of the development side of things. But increasingly, we hear about wastewater is a concern. Our water quality is really important. And we can care about more than one thing at a time, and housing is certainly also a priority. So how do we sort of work towards both of things so that it's a win for both and not a detriment to either? We've already got really great attendance for that. There is still room open. So if you'd like to attend, please let me know. I can send over the flyer for it. But that's on Tuesday. We also did in November, we did a session on best practices in RFP and developer selection. That was sort of like a 200 level course. We've had people talk about, what is an RFP, what's the procurement process, sort of that baseline vocabulary. And this was the next level of, okay, once you've got a spot and you've got a sense of what you want to do with it, how do you put together a really dynamite RFP so that you get good responses back? And then once you have those responses, what do you do with them? Legally, what do you have to do? What should you be looking for? How should you be scoring them? What are things that you should be looking for as you're considering different developers? And so the attendance has been strong. And again, we try to pick different topics so that it's not the same thing year after year after year. We really try to be responsive to what the needs of the region are. So the workshops are one sort of prong. The second piece, I should mention that our workshops are recorded. We have a YouTube channel. So if you can't make the sessions, I send to everyone who's registered, I send the video recording, the slide decks, contact information for the speakers. So there's still a way to participate and get the information, even if you can't be there on the date and time. The second piece is peer group. This is a less formal space, so we don't record peer group. We do capture the town updates. I ask each of the 8 towns to come and talk about the housing initiatives that they're working on. And we're doing regional peer groups this year, so it's all 8 towns together. Last year, we did sort of sub-regional, and every meeting, the people in the Lower Cape would just ask what the people in the Outer Cape were doing and vice versa. And so instead of just running messages back and forth, I figured it would be simpler to put everyone in the same room together. And it's an opportunity to build relationships across town lines, to hear about what other towns are working on, to beg, borrow, and steal good ideas, to improve upon ideas that other towns have already implemented and tailor them to your specific town. To commiserate a little bit, housing is, we're pushing the rock up the hill every day. And sometimes it's nice to hear that other people are pushing the rock right there next to you. So between workshops and peer groups, we have one program offering every single month. On top of that, we also have a monthly newsletter called Under One Roof, where we also capture monthly a couple of updates from each town. We also do a spotlight where we dig into some piece of housing that, maybe gets glossed over a little bit. So we talked about, what is CPA? What is CPA used for? Where did it come from? We've talked about why does affordable housing take so long to build? We've dug into a number of different things. And then the other piece I wanted to mention for this past year specifically, and certainly moving forward, is that we did a lot of outreach and advocacy around what is now the Affordable Homes Act and the Seasonal Communities designation. So last year, we used that same newsletter email list to promote opportunities for our towns to give input into what's now the Affordable Homes Act. And now that it is passed, we've been using peer group as an opportunity to update people about what's in it. And we will continue to update everybody as regulations get promulgated and understanding the impact for our towns. But we're very excited about that. So that's about the quick and dirty. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. And I want to thank the Eastham CPC, Eastham Town Meeting voters for your generosity in supporting this program in years past and hopefully in years future as well. Thank you.
And she didn't even have any slides or notes.
I've got notes. I've got notes. The font is so small and I get lost, so I just talk.
Yeah, that's what I, no, it's, yes. no,
This is actually my half speed speaking. I had to remind myself to slow down. I can do the auctioneer version of this presentation if I really have to.
No, you obviously know what you're doing. Well, I think that's obvious, so thank you.
Are there any questions from the Zoom folk?
I just think, I think, for the-
Dan?
yeah, I just think for the public's information, the amount of the request should be stated.
Absolutely. It's a $10,000 request, which is a small fraction we did include. I know last year we didn't have a broken out budget. This year, the request does include the specific program budget. And to the previous presenters' comments, we do ask each of the 8 towns in the Lower and Outer Cape, our catchment area, to also contribute, and they all do that as well. So you're not the only ones. I do a whole tour of CPCs every year.
Thank you.
And I should also state that if the public is watching, our workshops are no cost, partially because of the support of CPCs. So if people are interested in attending, they are free to attend. And then our YouTube is public. So if you ever want to watch one of the videos there, we really just want people to have the information.
What is the YouTube address?
I can send it. It's got like a big, long, like numbers and letters, but it's the Lower Cape Housing Institute playlist, effectively.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a couple of comments and questions. One of the things I've been involved with the Lower Cape Housing Institute I've been going to it for about, probably since one of the beginning times.
17, yeah.
And one of the things that I think needs to be done more, and you mentioned it in, actually, I think it's on page 5, community outreach. And the community needs to understand the issues, and they're not coming to the meetings. They're not coming to the presentations. And I'm just wondering if there's a way to do something more from a community aspect than just I sign up, register, and I attend by Zoom to hear what the folks are saying.
Sure. So part of that is a little bit by design because the Housing Institute is really geared towards municipal officials and staff.
I know.
We have a separate prong of the housing advocacy program that is geared towards residents. And we do cross-pollinate and provide, the resources across to both. Things like Housing 101, that is really just like, what do all the different words mean? What can housing look like? Those we do promote on social media. We put ads in the paper, and this year I got a really great response of people that were just residents were interested in attending. So I think session to session, it depends, but certainly residents are welcome to attend. And if, I provide the information to everyone on our list, you're also free to share it with people outside. We can look into including a larger sort of audience.
Right.
Part of what's nice about it being municipal officials is that we have sort of a shared vocabulary, so that especially for the things that are a little bit more advanced, we are assuming that there's a shared level of knowledge because people understand a little bit how local government works, people understand a little bit how housing works, and then we're delving into specific topics versus the content that we tailor for our resident advocates is, meets them where they are and then sort of scaffolds up to what we're talking about in these workshops.
Because I just, as I said, I just feel that the community, that everybody as far as Eastham is concerned, we all know we have a housing issue. And probably a high percentage of them have not been involved with any of your programs.
And I don't think people realize that it's just below or just above 50% of folks who work on the Cape come over the bridge.
That's right.
I think it's
Which is
over
horrific.
50.
And you can really see that in the morning commuter
you know,
traffic.
coming-
There used to
coming
not
on,
be
that's right.
commuter traffic from
Mhm.
all that way, and now there is. January, February.
Yeah, and I just saw it. I was in Harwich before I came here, and the traffic was, it was after 4 o'clock. The traffic was heading off Cape. Yeah. One of the other questions that I have is, and I was looking at, you were seeing what you hope to do, your goals. 2 towns will either increase their allocation of short-term rental tax revenue to fund housing production or adopt a real estate transfer fee. We, Eastham, as you probably know, have decided to use our short-term rental, not for housing, but for wastewater.
Yes.
And the transfer fee is really not something that we can decide on our own. That's a state issue. So I'm not sure how you feel that would be able to be done.
Sure. So the short-term rental tax money, we are really supportive of towns using that funding stream for wastewater because we see that as being something that unlocks housing. So we see that as
We
being-
need it in order
Yes.
to have
Yeah.
housing.
Absolutely, yes. So we see that as being sort of the same direction, and we are supportive of that. The real estate transfer fee, a number of towns in the region have passed home rule petitions. They're hung up at the state legislature. But what we have heard from our state level delegation is that it is helpful to have towns pass even the home rule petitions because it helps them make the case on Beacon Hill that there is support for this. Part of this too is that internally we have to have, benchmarks and things to work towards for the program. Ultimately, the towns are in the driver's seat. We provide the education. What you as board and committee members and what town meeting voters decide what to do is up to you. We're a resource. We try to say, we think these things are best practice if you're working towards XYZ, but how you get there is really the purview of Eastham and Eastham residents and the rest of the towns.
Do you know which towns have filed a home rule petition?
Put me on the spot. Provincetown, I believe Truro, I think Orleans. Let me check.
Okay.
It's at least 4.
Oh, okay.
Be as many as 6.
And I have another question on the budget.
Mhm.
And
Which I don't have in front of me.
up at town grants, you have 102,500. And it was my understanding you're asking 8 towns for 10,000 each, so I'm not sure how you get to 102.
I am not the person who puts the
Oh,
budget together.
okay, okay.
But yes, that is correct. It's 8 towns at $10,000. There may be like another grant that got shoehorned in there as part of that line item, but you're correct in your math. Yes.
Okay. And what are fringe maybe fringe, yeah, if you could just ask, I'd like to know what you call fringe benefits, which is almost $30,000 as compared to salaries.
That is another good CPA/HR question. Let me find out.
Yeah, okay.
I don't want
okay,
to speak out of turn.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the folks here or on Zoom? As Amanda said, the Lower Cape Housing Institute is asking $10,000. And this is, I think, this is the 9th year of the housing. And we CPA here have been giving monies to the Housing Institute for a number of years now. Do I have a motion to approve the recommendation, the request, I should say, for the Lower Cape Housing Institute of $10,000?
So moved.
Eileen? Do I have a
Second?
Joanna? Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion of $10,000 for the Lower Cape Housing Institute for fiscal year 26? 1, 2, 3, 4. Can I count you as?
Yeah, I'm an alternate, so yes.
Oh, okay. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
If you don't want to count me, then.
No.
No, I'll take the
last.
I just checking.
7 or 8,
8, yeah, it's a good question.
none opposed.
Yeah, okay. 8-0. Okay.
Thank you so much, and I will email Stacy with that information.
Yeah,
that we talked about tonight.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. I'm going to go back to the agenda, folks. The first not the first, but the next item. Let's see, just a minute. The next item on the agenda is the minutes of 12/4/24, and Stacy sent out a last minute
Yeah, I put the
update.
guest,
Yeah,
I
the
was
guest,
driving to work today, I'm like, that's what Mary meant about the guests, so I
Yeah.
put them on the top and resent it
That's what I meant.
out.
So I appreciate that. So I don't know whether you all had a chance to pull it up because I know you're all busy with other things. So we do have the minutes of December 4th, 2024. And everyone was present but Mark, but so he is not here at the moment. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of December 4th, 2024?
Yes,
Move to
Joanna?
approve the minutes of December 4th, 2024.
Janet
Janet?
and Joanna seconds.
Just a
I thought they looked great. Thank you. Stacy.
okay. Janet is main and Joanna is second. Any discussion? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0.
7.
7-0.
Are you,
1, 2, 3.
I,
No,
no, I
that,
would be 8.
Except that he wasn't.
no, but
Right.
Mark,
One, three,
Mark
four,
wasn't
five,
here.
6,
Mark
7.
wasn't here.
It's still 7.
but it's 7.
It's 7, it's
Yeah.
7-0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
Yeah, and that's what I wrote down.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Stacy, for doing that for me. Okay. Back to the minutes, yes, the minutes, the agenda. I'm on number 4, financial information, and I want to again thank Tina for putting that information together for us. Let me just get my worksheet here. There we go. Okay. I'm going to look at the CPA cash balance first. And I just make a few comments. We do have the first half of the tax collections are in, and that is up to the 570,000 figure. We've received the state reimbursement, which I mentioned at our last meeting, and it's now listed here because it came in this past month of 241 to 61. And that is the lowest it's been in 3 years. 258 last year and 451 the year before that. Legislature passed a $20 million additional amount, so yeah, 241. And it's interesting, the other thing I noticed is the investment income. The investment income so far for this fiscal year is the exact same total amount that we received 2 years ago. So it's 57,000 now, and it was 57 for the total year for 2 years ago with interest rates. And let's see, is there anybody that has any questions on the CPA cash balance worksheet? I'm going to go to the project list next. Oops. And thank you again, Tina, for putting the information at the bottom. That's really helpful. So I'm assuming the 185 for the Provincetown Independent was when we had the cost of putting stuff into the paper. And the Orleans Finch Skate Park has all been used. And the Schoolhouse Museum, we've now through this November, only 35,000. So they're really moving ahead up there. So,
See it.
yeah.
Delivered two old desks that came out of what was torn down are now back over there
Oh,
from our garage.
very good, very good. Yeah.
Mary, they did submit a invoice in December.
Oh, okay, so that's
So
not on
100
here because it's
105,
only
that's
through
right, it'll be
November.
on next month,
What
yeah.
was, do you know?
105,000.
105, okay. All righty.
So it's going fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there was 447 originally. Do you have any information on
No, I
the
don't.
status of that?
I don't.
Mhm.
I'm not part of the Historic Society.
Yeah, no, I just didn't know whether you had information on
Well,
the schoolhouse.
when we have our meetings, we get updates, but
Mhm.
right now they're concerned with getting that building closed.
Yeah,
and-
for the,
Yep.
of this winter, of this
Winter.
weather. Yep. Okay. So I'm going to go on to the next item, which is the final reports. Let's see. Now, we have a final report for the Finch Skate Park. And that was all used up. Does anybody have any questions on the Finch Skate Park project? It looks, I'm looking at, Tina, I'm looking at the worksheet that they included on here. And they have the estimate of 31, which was what they were raising. But then they've got the actual of 12,175. So have you, this, I think,
Is that on the final report?
yes, let me just, I have another copy. Can you give that? There. It was on the, on the bottom there, yeah.
Not sure where they got their numbers from.
I'm sorry.
Said I'm not sure where they got their numbers from.
Yeah. They have the estimate of 31,3, which is listed, under the estimate. Which is the 7.5 from us, 7.5 from Brewster, and then Orleans, which adds up to exactly what it is.
But it looks like they did not spend that.
It says
Eh.
for the status on the ramp resurfacing, it still says in
I know.
process, so maybe they couldn't get to that before the weather. I could ask her.
I'm just wondering how they figured out that all was used up when they haven't.
Well, the money that the East Ham CPC gave them, they used. So the final report is based on that.
So did Brewster also pay? Because that would have added up to be more than the actual spent too. Because East Ham and Brewster adds up to 15,000.
I'll give Erica a call tomorrow
Yeah.
and ask her.
Is it just me or am I?
No, I'm with you, Mary.
Yeah. I'm too picky. Yeah, I would like to, because normally, I don't think they should be sending something in requesting our money unless everything has been finished. And it says under here, to be determined on one part. Right? Is that?
Well, yes and no.
You can help us.
with this kind of project, Stacy is actually getting invoices from the company or from whoever's doing this work.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're giving us an invoice saying that they spent our
7,005.
on this, then I'm gonna pay it.
Okay,
And when
okay.
it's like a combined,
So,
it's a small project, but it's
Yeah.
a combined. And that's what I'm saying. I don't understand their numbers and I'm sure they might not understand them. I don't mean that rude. But understanding how we do it here, how Brewster does it, how Orleans does it.
yeah.
So they're probably just trying to give us their best answer to finish their report, even though they might not have finished the ramp.
So they're just saying that they have received invoices that would cover the 7,005 that we have given them, even though the project itself isn't finished.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay.
And they're saying that have officially spent 12,000.
Yeah, right.
And this goes to a question that Eileen sent me the other day regarding 107 Main
cool.
Street,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They're not done with the project yet,
Right.
but they've requested
The
the 100,000. We gave
100,000.
it to them. We asked them for a final report based on that 100,000. Do we not, I mean, because you had asked for the final report because we gave them the money.
Mhm.
Do we want the final report
When it's-
based on the $100,000? Or do we want the final report when they're done with the entire project?
Mhm.
I don't,
And I
Yeah,
think that,
I just thought the heading for that could be a little confusing.
yeah,
Just on the.
you're talking about the
reporting-
final
the
report?
reporting
Yeah.
form.
Mhm.
It says final report. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
is it
yeah.
an interim report, to the funder?
Mhm.
Or is it a final report because,
For the amount of monies that
us,
we
yeah.
provided.
that we've given keys out?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that what you've just mentioned, Stacy, and we did discuss it at our last meeting. I think we need to look at and what I'd like to do for our next meeting is look at the verbiage that's on our conditions worksheet and make sure that the language that's in the conditions that we put, depending upon the project, says what we want them to understand is how the monies need to be paid or when it's going to be paid and what needs to be met in order for those monies to be paid. And that's something that I was going to bring up when we get towards the end of the meeting here. So are people okay with the fact that we have received invoices for the 7,500 and we've paid it, and that was what we had offered to use for the skate park? Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah,
fine. It's
yeah,
just
yeah.
like, as I said, I think we need to just sort of adjust what we're asking for them.
Yeah.
And sort of an interim, when our funding is spent, and then maybe a
Right.
complete where it shows all the contributions
Mhm.
and how that has broken down, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just when a project gets CPA funds from multiple towns, what goes up to the state, the coalition's website on the project is probably, there's probably not multiple.
no, there are.
Yeah, there are, because
There are?
Yeah.
Tina's the one that enters all that information.
Okay, so okay.
Yeah, so it'll say Eastham 107 Main Street, and then it'll be listed under Brewster, and it'll be listed under every
Oh,
other
okay.
town that gave funding
yeah,
for it.
Okay, then that is a
So each-
question
each-
beyond us. I mean,
Yeah, is that searchable by 107 Main Street? If somebody wanted to see what was CPC funding went to that project?
they'd have to go
Into
multiple
Eastham. I think you go into
places.
Eastham.
Yeah.
I think you can go into the coalition
Well, I think-
website and.
Oh.
Yeah, I think from a fiscal standpoint, we need to know, we need that, how was Eastham's money spent? Here's the page, or whatever it is, a short one. I think that would satisfy our financial piece. But then that's why I wondered, it goes up the state. If you want to find out about a project, they should put it all together in one and say, here are the parts from all the different towns, and here's the final, but.
That's what I wondered.
Yeah,
Is it
yeah.
searchable by
Yeah.
project name?
Right,
I want to say no.
Yeah.
That sounds great,
Probably
but
not.
yeah,
unless it's a special project that they're
yeah.
highlighting,
Mhm.
it's not, it's
Yeah.
probably not.
That'd be useful.
If I may,
Mm,
when I'm
always.
looking at this, of course, I'm like, okay, their numbers aren't adding up to what they're saying, but that's okay. But going back to your question, Mary, of when do we want the final report?
Mm.
When I'm looking at this, and I understand completely, they spent our $7,500. We asked for a report, they gave us this. But I'm also thinking that this could happen again. They could come and want to upgrade something else. And when they do that, if we're all still here, or it might be a new crew that's looking at it, and they look back at this report, are they gonna think, well, they never really completed this?
mm.
It doesn't look like it's complete, and I understand that our portion is complete.
Mhm.
And I understand what you're asking about the larger projects that we're doing with the 100,000. I think that it would be beneficial to us to get the end report,
Mhm.
not they still have so much to do, but let me get this finished and give it to ESAM. I
mhm.
think one report for the whole project would be better because it doesn't look where people that come after us looking back, how come they accepted these incomplete projects?
Well, that's what I said. I think it's, the final report can be confusing.
is
So if it's an
misleading, yeah.
interim report, because we've spent all of your money, could be one heading. And then a final, like, okay, we're handing keys out. And that's the end result.
I think it's just something we need to think about. and
Yes,
like you said, work on that.
Yep,
Which
yep.
direction we want to go as a committee.
I think we just lost Elaine, which is what I was just doing.
She's had to.
Yeah, okay. So, so are people comfortable given our recent discussion here, accepting the fact that they've spent the 7,500, we've received the invoices and
Yeah.
we feel that we're comfortable with that. Yeah,
Clarification.
yeah. So do I have a motion to approve the final report for the Finch Skate Park?
No, I think you need to word that differently, Mary. I think you have to have the final report of Eastham's contribution to the skate project.
Yeah, yeah,
No, but-
that's what this is.
I understand that, but that's not what you said,
Oh, okay.
because it's very important. Since
Yeah.
this in reality is an interim
Mhm,
report
mhm.
for the whole project.
Right,
But you asked for a report for us. So it needs to be clarified that this is coming from this is Eastham's contribution. So that way,
But everything that we're voting on here is Eastham's contribution.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but when we want to close the books,
Mhm.
if you don't have the difference between when you're dealing with multiple town projects,
Mhm, mhm.
contributions.
Yeah.
We need to close the books for Eastham.
Mhm.
And that's why it's important to put down Eastham's contribution to this project is closed.
Yeah. That's fine.
I think that makes it clearer and distinct.
Second,
Oh, who was first? Who?
oh, I don't know. I motion we approve the report, the final report for East Ham's portion of the
Finch
skate park.
Finch.
Yeah.
To say.
It's Finch. So that's.
Fake Skinch Park. I gotta go try that park when it's.
So
open.
I'm putting Joanna down as first and then Eileen as second.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 0.
Yeah, that's gonna be a topic for discussion next month. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I'm
May I
sorry.
add one other thing? I think as I see what's happened, because we had another project with other towns
Oh, the one we were just
contribute,
talking about.
to help close out the books for Eastham, I think we should require this Eastham's contribution to this or Eastham's contribution to that. That makes it easier for the accounts to be settled, I think. At this stage of the game.
Okay.
Well, I think for the public's understanding of it.
Yeah.
I would agree.
yeah.
I don't know if accounting wise.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have, let me see. This doesn't look right. I have the Penrose. It says funding amount 100,000, unexpended 100,000. That's not right.
That should be 0.
That should be 0.
I'll resubmit it to them.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So I'm gonna hold that off. Hold that
Yeah,
off.
That whole entire report was, printing out of some.
Oh,
software
100,
program. It's
100,
like, come on.
118 pages.
I do have a brief update, video from David Quinn on 107 Main
Main
Street, if
Street.
you wanna, see that. They did like a drone flyover of the progress so far.
Can that be shown up there?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm
cause
sure.
they have requested their, payment.
Yeah. I
This
should
is
drive by
107
there
Main Street
sometime.
in Orleans. This is an affordable housing project that's being sponsored by the town of Orleans. So behind me, we have a foundation that's completed, and we're waiting for modular construction boxes to arrive onto the site.
Like past here.
So this is a project that's supported by the town of Orleans. We're actually on land that was previously owned by the town of Orleans through the Affordable Housing Trust. And the Affordable Housing Trust, with the support of Orleans residents, set this land aside specifically for use as affordable housing. And Housing Assistance Corporation put in a proposal to develop 14 units of affordable housing, and we are honored to be awarded, and we've been working with the town for the last couple of years on permitting, getting the financing in place for the project, and now we're at about the halfway point of construction. We have a foundation behind me that's completed, and we're about to move into the vertical construction period of the project, which is when the buildings will actually go up. So this is 14 units. We have 9 one-bedrooms, 4 two-bedrooms, and 1 three-bedroom. And what's great about this project is that we designed it to fit into the surrounding neighborhood. So this is a very historic-looking neighborhood with old houses, and so we designed it to be one building, but it's really more like 4 buildings. So they kind of step back as you go down the property, so it's going to fit in really well to the neighborhood. And I think be a great addition for the town. So this is being constructed using modular construction. So that means that the buildings are actually being built off-site in New York at Westchester Modular, which is a factory in New
Interesting.
York. And they're going to be trailered from New York all the way to Orleans and be set on these foundations behind me over the course of a couple days. So we're going to go from having a foundation just like this to a full building within just a few days. It'll be really cool to see. They come in with a crane. There's 24 boxes, I believe, and they're gonna just use a crane and set them all together, pop the roofs up, and it's gonna be really neat to kind of see this happen over the course of a couple days. And the benefits of doing modular construction is by building it off-site, it can be built more efficiently, there's less material waste, save on cost. We also shorten the construction period, so it's a little less noisy for the neighborhood, where you don't have to have months and months and months of framing. They all just the buildings get built in really 1 week. They get put up on the site. So it'll be exciting to see. So this project actually has a lot of financial supporters. We have the biggest supporter being the town of Orleans, which gifted the land, then also financial support through the Affordable Housing Trust and the Community Preservation Committee, and then also just a lot of support in the community as this project went through the permitting process through the town. Right now we're in January of 2025, right before the modular boxes are going to be set. Late summer, falls when we really started here, demoing the building that was here before, which was Masonic Lodge. And the project should be completed by late summer. So we'll be doing a lottery for these units. They're all for households with incomes below 80% AMI, and then there's 2 units that are set aside at lower incomes with project-based vouchers. So those units will be available for people with households with incomes below 30% of area median income, or AMI. And we'll be doing a lottery, an open lottery that's open to the public. There is a local preference, so residents of Orleans or people who work in Orleans or people with children in the Nauset school system do have a preference for this project. And we'll be doing some marketing as we get closer to the completion of the project, probably starting marketing and advertising for units in the spring. And there'll be a lottery process, an application process, and then we'll be leasing up in the fall.
Great. Oh, very good, thank you.
He says he's gonna send out,
When I started drinking warm water to help me lose weight, my friend
Stop sharing to lose weight. Stop sharing.
I want to see a video of them putting the houses in with the current.
Yeah,
but-
I'm sure he'll
yeah.
send that next.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
saw that one being put together over 30 years ago, and all I could imagine was like a big zipper. But went to a two-story house, and it's like,
Mhm.
In this past year, we've had several houses built here in.
Yeah.
One in Locale.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
There's another one that's, on the, Old Orchard.
Old Orchard down near the transfer station.
yeah,
And there's
my,
another one, I think, on Campground.
my back neighbor is modular, and that was 20 odd years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. Oops. All righty. So, but what I have here is not, it's not on a formal report form. It's just all I have is this. Are we supposed to be voting on that or?
No,
I didn't think so.
no, I think I was just sending that out as information.
As
for-
in-
yeah,
okay,
'cause that's
okay,
already been-
Okay, so
that's
that's
already
not
been- yeah,
something that
No, no.
is needed to be filed. Okay, we have the Lower Cape Housing Institute that we got last time, and
I still haven't gotten that corrected
that's
yet.
right, it's not
Yeah,
correct.
no,
Yeah.
I am working on that. though.
Because they're still, this,
They still haven't requested their $10,000.
no, not for this year. I mean, for fiscal year 25.
No.
And the one that they filled out or submitted was for 10,000, which was this year's amount. And I won't go through it, but I went through all of the information in here and the numbers, the budget is all screwed up. I shouldn't say that on.
Needs editing,
Sorry about that.
benefit from editing.
Oh, boy. I apologize. But there are quite a few problems with the submission, let's put it that way. I also had something down on the Sandy Meadow signs. What's there? I had a,
Well, there's I had filing fees on the.
yeah, filing
so,
fees.
And
Yeah,
I
what's that?
spoke to Tina about it. I talked to Stuart up at the coalition finally, and he didn't have any answer. But they have to, they're gonna work on the ADA extension of Sandy Meadow. And it's in a sensitive conservation wildlife area, so they have to apply for a special permit from the state.
Mm.
And so there's a filing fee for
Oh,
that,
okay.
for that permit. Tina said that the expense can be allowed as long as they don't go over their, their requested $80,000.
Mhm.
Which I don't think they will, because they're getting some of the work done by the,
Right, local.
yeah, yes. So,
Well,
so that fee was $307.
Yeah.
And I just put it on there just because I wasn't sure if it was gonna be allowed or not, and, but Tina had gotten back to me
Mhm.
before the meeting. So.
Okay, so there's nothing to be voted
There-
on
no,
on
no,
that at
no.
this meeting.
No.
Okay. All righty, so,
Mary? may I-
yes, sure.
On our discussion about how we're gonna do things,
Mhm.
I think that we might want to make it a point, especially with open space coming more and more, to see if they can identify if they're gonna need this and make it part of their budget.
Mhm.
So it's not a surprise.
Mhm,
Right.
mhm,
Does
mhm,
that make sense?
mhm,
Right.
mhm,
I think
mhm.
because, well, that Sandy Meadow isn't, doesn't have a conservation restriction on it. It's still not classified as fully protected for conservation land. Yeah, we didn't think beyond that. It doesn't mean you're not the mass heritage endangered species. You still have to look at all that. So there's no big wetland in there. So Conservation Commission representative didn't pick up on that piece, but I don't know who picked, Alex probably
Alex
said,
thinks, yeah.
yeah, but it is,
Mhm.
you know, well, it's like when a certain parcel on Route 6 got clear cut before construction, and it should have gone to Mass Heritage because of this box turtles, this. Anyway, so yeah, just because
I'm
Yeah,
just
you
saying, maybe
need
if
to
we
think
could
about
keep
it.
it on our radar to remind, them,
Mhm. Yeah, I just,
Right.
yeah,
is there gonna be a filing fee?
Right.
marked it up, marked it down, yeah.
And
And
Misa, yeah, it's $300. They're more than our local filing fees, so,
Mhm.
For this year.
Mm.
yeah, so, right. As of today.
And I guess the other one that I have asked for and we haven't
Town
received
hall.
yet is town hall from Jackie, and that's really, all the money was used, but we really haven't received anything from them, as far as I know,
That is correct.
and that's still on my radar. Okay. Is there anything else that needs to be discussed under either financial information or status of outstanding projects?
Yeah, I'm wondering, the discussion that we're anticipating of clarifying our
Conditions,
conditions.
yeah.
That has to be public? I mean, it's, because I don't, I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's gonna be a little boring for folks, but okay, that's me.
Yeah, but every year we should go over the conditions list and update it as necessary, and that's something that I was going to say, I mentioned earlier, but that to me is something that should be on the agenda for next meeting. Yeah. I just want to mention under number 5, the 5A, there's 3% surcharge exemption. We voted on that at this meeting last time. I brought it up to the Finance Committee after that. The town had a select board meeting Monday night, on the RTE, the residential tax exemption. It did not pass. The vote was 2-3, two against and 3 for. But in the process of having the presentation,
The other way, yeah, 3 against.
three,
Against and 2
Yeah.
for. You said it didn't pass.
oh, 3, it didn't pass. No, two did not want it and 3 wanted it.
So
The other way.
Yeah.
2 wanted it, 3 did not.
No,
want it.
no.
Well, how
No.
can it pass then?
No, I said it didn't pass.
Yeah, I
Didn't
know.
pass.
Right, so 3 were against it. So it didn't pass,
Yeah.
right?
3 did not want it to be implemented. 2 wanted it to be implemented.
Right.
So it is not going to be implemented.
But that's different than the 3% surcharge.
Right, that's a
Right.
different, right.
So they
And
have to now go and deal with that issue too.
And so that was a discussion that I've had with, as I say here, we voted on it. I brought it up at the Finance Committee meeting. I've been in touch with Rich before the meeting on Monday night. And it was mentioned at the RTE meeting Monday night, and it's on one of the slides, and this is a bigger picture, but for Eastham, it's got CPA exemption and it's got low income proposed. So it's going to be worked on, the language, and should be in the warrant article
From the select board.
in May. Yeah, right, the select board, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just
Yep,
wanted
that's good.
everybody to know, since it's been going from here to there to there to there, that it was
It's
on
moving.
the agenda on Monday and discussed. Not at great length, but it's on the thing. Does anybody have any questions on that part of the surcharge exemption? So I don't have anything else other than what we've just mentioned earlier, and Eileen just mentioned about the condition discussion. And I would like to have that at our next meeting, and
February 5th.
that's the other thing. Originally, we thought that the 580 Massasoit Road project was going to be on our agenda today, and it's not. And I don't know the reason for that. I asked about it and was told it wouldn't be on and
Paul
wouldn't be.
said that it wasn't.
Paul
gonna be
said
on
that at
this
the
month,
last
it's
meeting.
gonna be
So-
on next month.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. So, but I don't know
I don't think he doesn't have any of the,
information, any of the,
And the last year, the 740, whatever was approved on the last round hasn't,
for 447.
no, that
No,
was
that
what
was
the,
for
for
the schoolhouse.
purchase. Then we approved $740,000 for the
The
phase
740.
one of
I'm
historic,
getting it
from
confused with the
historic
schoolhouse.
preservation, and that's not been spent.
that has not been spent.
Right, yeah,
So that's even before we get to a new application.
yeah. So, so next meeting, we have a number of final reports that we would hope to get resolved. We want to discuss the condition.
I can send out the conditions to everyone
Yeah.
and so that
Yeah,
you have time to look them over and make notes on them.
Yeah. And the 580 Massasoit Road should be on the agenda. And, oh, do we need to do, for the next meeting, Tina, the reserve allocations? Or would that,
February.
You
We
had
usually
it
do
on
that.
it on the calendar
I'm looking at my calendar.
for, yep, February.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yes, we can do that.
so, so we're talking about February 5th. On the schedule, there's these, schedule, we did have to, if we needed it, January 22nd.
Yep, I'll get rid of that one.
And we will not be meeting on January 22nd. So that's a no. We will be meeting at our next meeting on February 5th. And the issues will be discussed as we've just mentioned. And the reserve, the various final reports, Massasoit Road, conditions, reserve allocations.
Could I ask a question, Mary, about Massasoit Road?
Sure.
If you approved 750 or thereabouts for historic, that never came before the Historic Commission.
The
Plans.
Last year's application.
last year's.
Application.
What are the town's obligations with regard to that?
Well, basically, to use the if you don't want to get in trouble with the state.
Right.
If you're going to use the money, it really has to be, using materials that were original to the building. And that is more expensive, and I bring this up because, probably back in 1917, and 2017, when I was still on this commission, the Baptist Church in Brewster.
Oh, right.
applied, They have their thing.
The aluminum
floor,
siding did not qualify.
But they it wasn't just siding, they wanted to use, the synthetic materials.
Right.
And so they ended up not getting the money, the town had to come back, and I just don't want to see.
The conditions on that, though, were the ones we typically use for historic preservation, and they have to meet this
Yeah.
Secretary of the Interior's,
Yeah,
well,
all
that's
that-
on their
if that's
conditions,
on there,
so.
then that's fine, but
Yes.
I think that you've got to be careful, because the building, because someone hit the building, the siding was taken off, and the insurance paid for putting new siding on, but it's plastic siding.
Right.
That doesn't match.
Right.
And there's other kinds of things that are
Right.
involved. For example, if they replace the front windows. Okay, we have two problems in terms of historic restoration. They replaced those front windows. The new building codes that went into effect August 1st this past year would require that they have to be thermopane, so it's gonna be more expensive than they thought.
Everything is.
Well, and the other thing
Okay.
that,
300,000.
But from a different category,
um,
affordable housing.
last year, Stacy, you put together a really nice, what I'll call a grid for the conditions.
Yeah.
And if you could do that again.
I will do that.
That
So
was-
can we just clarify next meeting?
Yes.
You're gonna discuss the conditions for the projects that have been approved for fiscal year 26.
Right.
But you're also going to be discussing the wording of the conditions.
Correct. Yep, yep.
I think that we should discuss the wording of the conditions
Before we
dis-
decide
right.
what number of the,
Yeah.
what numbers
so
we're gonna
maybe
use for
March
the
can be
conditions.
The
Yeah,
conditions for the
yeah,
projects.
yeah, yeah.
If that's okay.
In case they get changed in the
Right,
process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have enough time, because of the necessary, the lawyers reviewing the.
I'll talk to
warrants.
Paul about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in the past, that's been one of the problems that, when I was on this committee, that we faced. With the lawyers writing up the
warrant.
The warrant, yeah. I think it goes to print April 1st. I don't know, I have it. I have it somewhere.
got some time.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else that needs to be discussed or mentioned as far as our next meeting, which is February 5th at 5 o'clock? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Eileen? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ed? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7-0. We lost Elaine somewhere along the way.
Mary?
Janet, yes.
Yes, Elaine had said she could, in her email, she had said she could only be on for an hour.
Okay,
She was.
yeah.